Hello, in this video I would like to show you how to use this development board for the ATmega 328. The 328 is this chip right here, and that chip pin number 1 is on the far bottom left right there, shown by the pen. And this chip can be removed with the ZIF socket quite nicely and easily. Also, the development board supports a Tiny 13 or a Tiny 85, which is this small chip right here, and its pin 1 is in agreement with the other chip, which means that its pin 1 is in the same location right there. One of the first things you'll need to do with this board is to apply power, and we can come in right here with a 7.5 to 12 volt DC source right there. And that power goes to two different regulators. It goes to this 5 volt regulator and this 3 volt regulator. And you can select either 5 volts or 3 volts by using this jumper right here, which will jump between the two power supplies, depending upon which voltage level you would like to use. These two sockets and these two sockets right there are always 5 volts here and always 3 volts there, regardless of the jumper. But the jumper does feed the rest of the board. For example, here this VCC is coming from the jumper, and likewise all other VCCs come from this jumper right there. This section is for prototyping. This is a ground. These pins are connected up and down like this, so these 4 pins are connected together. We have an alternative DC power supply connection right here. The terminal block, you can feed in unregulated 7.5 to 12 volts DC. That can come in here and here. The plus side is this one, and the negative side is that one. You'll see a small plus and a small negative on the board next to it. This chip is a negative power supply source, and the value of it is regulated by this potentiometer here, and it's fed way over here to an optional LCD graphics screen. You could tap into it here if you wish. We have 2 potentiometers, here, and their connectors are here and here. The chips, the Tiny 13 and the 328, have sockets that you can tap into the pins. So right here, this would be PB number 0 on the 328. Likewise over here, this is the reset, and it is connected to that pin right there. VCC on the Tiny 13 is here and goes to that pin there. To program the chips, we have these 4 locations. On this board, I have soldered in just 3 connectors of the 4. The first 2 here and here go to the 13, and these 2 over here on the left go to the 328. It doesn't matter which one you use, these 2 going here and these 2 going here. To connect, we would use a connector like this. So I'm going to connect into the 328, and let's see, there we go. That in turn goes to a one of these converters, which at this point in turn goes to a USB to the computer. And this is the programming cable to program either of the chips. I'm going to remove that just to make it easier. And now again, this one is the one you would use for the Tiny 13. To reset either chip, we have the reset for the 328 here and the reset for the Tiny 13 here. This connector mirrors these two connectors together. So the top row here is the top row here, the bottom row here is the bottom row here, and I use that for LCD screens. We have also on the board we have some switches and two LEDs. Those two switches go here, those two LEDs go there. These switches are normally 5 volts before you press them. So when you press them, you'll get 0 volts. Let's test this board to see if it's working. We're going to put a wire from the switch to the LED, and you can see the LED lights up. Because the switch is normally high, when I press the switch, it'll go low, and the LED goes off. You can also test the power supply, and I'll bring the wire over to VCC, and you can see that the LED lights up right from VCC. So at this point, I think we've covered all the connections on the board. You know, some of the things to watch out for are, do you have the right chip in there? Is the orientation correct? Do you have the jumper set to 5 volts typically? Do you have power coming in? Is your channel connected, and does your channel work? Do you have the right COM port on the PC? Well, that should do it.